how do you express feelings just with a t-shirt or a pair of jeans? I often work by intuition. I really love when I can repeat with the director. I think it brings the work to another level.
Bina Daigeler is an acclaimed costume designer. She has a remarkable international career, navigating between art films with Jim Jarmush and Pedro Almodóvar, the TV show Miss America starring Cate Blanchett and Rose Byrne, and super productions such as Mulan. Bina, you are staying in Madrid during the quarantine, and I'm very honored to interview you from Paris for the 9th episode of Profession Costumière. Welcome, Bina.
Hi.
So, if you like, we could start with talking about your early career. Could you explain us how you became a costume designer? What led you to this profession?
I'm actually I'm a tailor, an haute couture tailor, and but I worked as a tailor in a shop in a workroom for theater and film costumes in Munich, and so that is how I started to work as an assistant of a costume designer, and then I just made my way up. I assisted quite a long time, and then I started to do my own projects.
Okay, so you started as a tailor in haute couture, and then you assisted costume designers in cinema, and that's how you arrived to this profession.
Yes, because as I was working in a workroom that made costumes for film and for theater, I met their costume designers, and then they asked if I would like to join them on projects, and that is how I started. And I really started in the film industry, I started really as a set-on costumière and as an assistant, and then after 3 or 4 years, I started to do my own projects as a designer in Germany. And then I came to Spain. I think I was 24, 25.
And if it's not indiscreet, why did you move to Spain?
Well, because as I started to work quite young, I just wanted to see a little bit more of the world. And it was in the 80s. And so somehow Madrid was the most fashionable town at that moment, in my opinion, in Europe. It was the place where to be, La Movida here in Madrid. And I had some Spanish friends. So I just thought, okay, I try that. And I really like Almodóvar's early movies. I was a big fan, and I always dreamt if I can work with him one day. And so somehow that was the motor for me to go to Spain. And also because Munich is a much smaller city. And at that moment in Berlin, there was still the wall, and I didn't want to go to Berlin. And that made me jump to Madrid.
And you actually made it working with Pedro Almodóvar. You worked twice together on All About My Mother and VOLVER. So could you tell us a bit how you met?
We met through friends. Yes, I never thought that I somehow got the chance then to design 2 of his movies. And of course, for me, it was a big, big chance. And also for my later career, as I had worked with him somehow, and he is such an acclaimed director, it opened a lot of doors for me in other productions and in more international productions.
Yes, the first movie you worked on together is All About My Mother, and it's really his most acclaimed film that got him an Oscar, so really a global recognition. So I guess that for you also, you got a global recognition from that movie.
Yes, it was, because everybody saw All About My Mother. And so once I started with more international projects and I started to travel, or I started to go to costume houses in LA, always when they saw that I had worked on All About My Mother, of course, that helped me. Just it opened doors. He is a very, very famous director, and he has such a personal, iconic style and taste. So
Yes.
it just helped me a lot to progress in my own career.
And you worked together again 7 years after All About My Mother for one of his other masterpiece, VOLVER. So can you tell us how you met again on that specific movie?
Well, it's actually him. He makes his choices. He changes sometimes between his crew members. And so he just wanted to work with me again for VOLVER. And of course, I was absolutely thrilled because I love the story and I love the movie. And it's just such an opportunity to be creative next to him. And he's such an... Pedro Almodóvar is such an inspiration for a costume designer. And he's one of the directors who is really a lot involved, and he knows a lot about fashion. It's really fun to work with him.
And you say that he changes regularly the crew. So did you find, for instance, the same person handling the settings that for All About My Mother, or was it a different person in charge of all the decor, the apartments?
No, I didn't want to say that regularly. He has some people he always works with him. For example, Alberto Iglesias, the music.
Okay, yes.
And also most of the times it's always the same production designer. He had some years where he changed between some of the costume designers. And sometimes he also changed the DOP, it depends a little bit. I was just the collaborator for two movies. Of course, there are obviously others that are in every movie of him. So I just got the opportunity for VOLVER, and then later on I went my own way because I started to work quite a lot outside of Spain.
Yes. You are also the costume designer of Mulan, and I heard in an interview that you explored for this movie a range of bright colors, from yellow, a color that is reserved to the emperor in Chinese culture, to red. So I was wondering if somehow it was a totally different way to work on Almodóvar's favorite colors, all this range of orange, of red, or is it a strange bridge?
I think the bridge is somehow more in that I use a lot of colors. And if I don't use them, then it is also always like with a lot of feelings and intuition. I take a lot of care of the language of colors that I use in my movie. So depending what kind of movie you do, you have always your own color language that has to agree with the director's taste and with the DOP and the production design. It somehow has to have one language how you use colors. And I think if you go through my movies, you can see what kind of colors I often use. That doesn't mean that all the movies are colorful, because obviously there are movies where they are very settled and darker or more pastel. It depends. But actually, yes, for Mulan, as there's this outstanding red tunic, you can make a bridge to the red of Almodóvar. But I think in general, red is just a very heroic and very cinematographic color to use. And for me, the red Mulan as a hero, very strong, powerful woman, I just thought that red would be really the perfect color for her warrior outfit. Well, not only for her, because of course it's the whole army that surrounds her.
You have also designed costumes for Jim Jarmush twice, in The Limits of Control and Only Lovers Left Alive. So could you tell us how you first met with Jim Jarmush?
Well, actually, we didn't meet because I was working on the Che Guevara movie with Steven Soderbergh.
Yes.
And I knew that Jarmush is coming to Madrid to shoot. And I'm a huge Jarmush fan, already from like Stranger in Paris and Down by Law. I just love all his movies. And so I really hoped somehow to be on the list of the people that he will interview for his movie. And I was concerned because I was not in Madrid. So I could only have a phone call because we were shooting in Puerto Rico in the jungle, you know. And so we had this very long phone call. Well, it wasn't so long, but like half an hour. Somehow it seems that I said something that made him think that I'm the right person. And then once I finished the Che Guevara movie, we were in Mexico, and I went directly from there to New York, where it was a huge snowstorm, and there I met Jim the first time, and for me it was something really special to meet Jim Jarmush in like a bar in New York. Yes. I just loved it, and then we developed like a way how we work together that on the limits of control that then he wanted to repeat. And fortunately I was available, and also because it was Only Lovers Left Alive, we shot half in Germany. It was perfect as I'm German. It was just the perfect match. I really love when I can repeat with the director. I think it brings the work to another level because you know each other already, and that gives you the opportunity to develop a much closer, same language, same creative language. And often also then it is somehow much faster. And as it's faster, you can get deeper because somehow you have more time available. And you get deeper to the point. And I really enjoy it when I can repeat with the director. I love that, yes.
And so for the limits of control, the movie follows a mysterious loner who's played by Isaac de Bancolé. And he's in the process of completing a criminal job, and he wears incredibly chic suits. And he's surrounded by extravagant characters such as Tilda Swinton, the blonde, dressed as a white cowgirl, or Paz de la Huerta, the nude woman who's only wearing a transparent coat. So all the costumes are really visual and aesthetics in this movie, and I was wondering if maybe it was more challenging to dress a character, or if you had fun dressing all of them. Or
well, I definitely know who was the less challenge, because this was John Hurt. I love him so much, and I really I was a little bit nervous because when you get suddenly to dress such an iconic actor as John Hurt, it's like, you think, oh wow,
yes,
I hope he likes what you propose, because I imagine he was not young and he had so much experience. And so I had prepared like 3 racks, even so that he had only one outfit. And he stepped in and he saw like the 3 racks, and he said, oh my God, do I have to put all that on? And I said, no, let's just start. And then he looked at, like I had 5 pair of shoes, and I knew what were my favorite ones. And he looked at the shoes and he said, I can't believe it. These are really the most ugliest shoes I have ever seen in my life.
Oh,
and
no.
I was like, oh. And then he said, I love them so much. They are so ugly. How could you buy them for me? And then how much were they? And they were very, very cheap. They were like this a little bit plateau, plastic, black shoes with a little bit of tiger print on, but really cheap. And he fell in love with these cheap shoes. And he said, really, they are so ugly. I can't believe it that you bought them for me. And then we put the first outfit on, and he said, that's it. That's it. And then Jim
no hesitation.
And he didn't want to try anything else on. And Jim came in, and Jim said, well, let's see another option. And John Hurt said, no way. This is the best option. And I love it so much, and this is it. And so that was his first option, and he stayed with that. And then when I had the fitting for Only His Lovers Left Alive with him, he came in and he said, let's see if you nail it again with the first costume. And exactly that was it. He did one outfit. He stayed with that. And yeah, so that was just lucky. And it was like the easiest and the funniest and the quickest fitting I ever had.
Wow, yes, that's a very nice story. It was love at first sight on the first outfit for him.
Yeah.
And in Only Lovers Left Alive, so it's a different, completely different setting and story. It's the forever affair going between two vampires who are Tilda Swinton and Tom Hiddleston. So how did you design costume for vampires who have been alive for centuries? What were your inspirations?
Yeah, that was exactly like the big question. Like, where is the arch? Where do you go when you are already getting dressed since 500 years? Day after day, where do you end up? And Jim and my conclusion was that you go back to simplicity.
Yes.
That you wanted like simple, but of course they are extravagant because they are special creatures. We introduced to all of them the gloves and leather, but we draw very simple lines because we thought they had all the other periods where they could be like very overdressed and, with big dresses in the Romanticism and, in Charleston. And so they had all the fashion moments already, that at that point they just were interested in all their books and literary or in the music. And that the fashion, they had their own taste, but went to something very simple and basic. But simple and basic, of course, like always in the special, a little bit rock star inspiration. And we also wanted to have, as both Tilda and Tom, they are so tall and so slim and slender and gorgeous. We really wanted also to pronounce that, so that you can just see their great body language that they both have.
And there's a point in the movie where Tilda Swinton wears a wonderful kimono. And I was wondering the story behind it, how you found this very beautiful outfit.
Yeah, that was actually the first piece that I bought, and it was actually in Morocco in an antique store. And I was still I was on holidays by chance. I even didn't start to work, but I saw it and I had read the script, so I knew what's coming up, and I just thought, that piece is perfect. I somehow need that piece. I often work by intuition. I think intuition for me is something that I really appreciate, like a guide, and I trust my intuition. And so I just thought, okay, that's a very great piece, and I will use that.
Yes, when you saw it, you immediately part of the movie.
Yeah, it worked just perfect for Tilda.
Yes, I really love this piece. So if you'd like, we could now discuss Miss America.
Yeah.
So you have designed the costumes of the acclaimed show Miss America about second wave feminism in the US, starring Cate Blanchett and Rose Byrne. The actresses both portray real-life women, the conservative Phyllis Schlafly and feminist icon Gloria Steinem. So how was it to work on this project and to design costume for historical characters?
Well, of course, it was very, very interesting because to be able to work with Kate is a pleasure and it's always fun and interesting. And then on top also all the other cast is just amazing. I just had only super wonderful, exciting actresses. And then on top, an amazing story to tell. I think it is a very important part of history. It is still absolutely contemporary because women still are...
Yes, unfortunately it is.
...treated differently, and there's still much less women in power than than men. And so I just, of course, from the beginning thought, okay, that's a great opportunity. And I had a lot of fun. I did a lot of research. There are a lot of documentaries and footages, and of course, all these people had written books and all this. So first we started to have a research process, and then once we finished with that, I started to design the clothes. And so for all the main cast, everything is made in the workroom. For all the actresses, even the jeans and everything is made in-house. And so that just the look gets really, really right. And I started to design the first pieces, and then the next step is that you have your first fittings and start to develop the character somehow together with the actresses, so that they can really feel that you are in the right direction.
And how many liberties did you allow yourself to take from the archives? Because as you said, the story happened in the 70s, so we have many footages and photographs also. So how close did you want to be to those documents, and how much liberty did you allow yourself?
So, of course, there were iconic looks from Shirley Chisholm, Gloria Steinem, Phyllis, that I really, really copied exactly. Like I printed fabrics, and we really copied it, because as the pictures and everything is on internet, when Shirley Chisholm was running for president, and it's such a famous and important moment in the American history, I really wanted to make it look like the same. Like the public figures, they should just look like very real and very the same. But then you have also the moments where they are at home, and where you think, okay, how are they dressed when they are at home, or not in a public moment, or in the moments where you don't have any research.
More private, more intimate moments.
Exactly, for the intimate moment. Who are they? What are they really doing? What makes sense for them? And of course, there somehow you have the freedom you create, but it has to make sense. And you try to create like a whole wardrobe that makes sense for one character. Yeah, that is what we did for each character, because all these women, they had tons of changes. There are 9 episodes. We are running through 10 years of time, from the 70s to the early 80s. So it was a long time period, and somehow all this had to make sense. And also because, they have like an evolution. Gloria Steinem, for example, changes a lot. At the beginning, she was much more into mini skirts and much more feminine. But later on, she just switched to jeans and T-shirts, and much more practical and simple going.
And there's something also I noticed watching the show. I thought it was amusing that I had never thought about that, and I don't know how relevant it is, but that for the conservative woman, Phyllis Schlafly, she has a very, well, I really like it, but a very beautiful wardrobe, but that is very like almost a bit 60s, wearing a lot of tweed, kind of Chanel suits, things like that, with more pastel colors, whereas Gloria Steinem is definitely into the 70s from the beginning of the show, with very eccentric prints and, as you said, miniskirts. So I thought it was amusing that somehow when you see the most conservative and the most revolutionary character, they almost like don't dress in the same year. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I mean that I did it. That was for example, that was a decision for me. I thought that I wanted to really draw a very, very strict line between the feminists and the anti-feminists at the beginning of our show, at least for the first 4 episodes.
Yes.
So I wanted to do it not only with color, I only wanted to do it with style. And somehow I also thought it was very appropriate because our feminists were living in New York. They had the very bohemian life. And our Phyllis, she was in Illinois. And you know, so it helped me that I situated Phyllis and her gang a little bit more into the late 60s, because that then gave me more time to jump forward. And of course, to draw a stricter line between them. And I thought that was really interesting. But later on, when you realize, like, an episode, it starts in 6, but then 7, 8, 9, it gets more mixed, because I think later on in the 70s, the fashion got much more like uniformed and more accessible to everybody. You know, it started somehow there. In the late 60s, early 70s, there were still much more things made and custom made and tailored. But later on, the people just start to shop and it gets more industrial life. And so I
easy
also
to
showed
get
that.
For everyone.
Yeah, and that it got more mixed up. There are not any longer such strict lines between one side and the other side.
Just to come back to Pedro Almodóvar and Jim Jarmush, just for one question. I was wondering, for each director, how specific they were about the costumes they had in mind. Did they share more like of a general impression about the character, or sometimes did they really tell you that they were seeing a specific coat outfit for a character?
Oh yes, somehow it's dynamic, but there happened that they see things and suddenly, you know, or in a photo or in a magazine or in a store or wherever, and said, I just saw the right thing for this scene. That is something that can happen. And especially like with people that have such a particular taste as Jim and Pedro. So yeah, that somehow can happen.
And I also like to ask you some extra questions about costumes in general. I was wondering, for instance, what are the movies and TV costumes that you especially like and that maybe also inspire you, but that you just like personally?
For example, I love Dangerous Liaisons. I loved that movie for the costumes. With Malkovich, I loved that. I loved also The Piano, you know, the Jane Champion movie.
Yes.
And I often see very nice works. I just don't, I would leave it with these 2 movies that I really enjoyed. I think these both movies I saw when I was young and was like with the idea that I would love to be a costume designer. So I really like both of them and have them always like in my heart and like the design.
And is there in the costumes you made a specific outfit that you have designed and especially like?
I think I have plenty. I have a lot. There are a lot of costumes.
Could you share some?
Enjoy. Well, I of course I love a lot. I love the costumes of Mulan. I love them because they are so elaborated and there's so much work behind and so much embroidery, hand stitching, dyeing. It was, you know, like in the movies as a costume designer, there are like 2 different kind of movies. You have like the period costume making movies that are amazing and it's very creative and very handcraft. And I love to do that. I also love to do the other kind of movies that are often contemporary and where you are asked more for a psychological work. Like, how do you express feelings just with a t-shirt or a pair of jeans? Because, you can decide on, is it this t-shirt or is it that t-shirt with the cut and with everything, and how much is it aged, and is it tight or is it loose, and I love both kind of costume designing. It's a different demand, one is like the pure creative handcraft fantasy. Of course, then also you always put also your intuition in for the feelings that the actor has to express. But then there are these other films that are more about how to express emotions with a simple t-shirt, and that's also a challenge, and I like both ways.
So it kind of leads us to my next questions. What do you like most about your job?
I love my job. I really, really love my job. I love my job that it is a teamwork. I love to work with a team. I love my teams. I really like to get input. I love to read stories, to hear about stories, to develop the stories. I like the traveling. I like that you can do movies that cheer the audience up. I like that there are movies that make the audience sad and thoughtful, and I like to be part of something that perhaps moves people and gives them a good time and takes them to other unknown places emotionally and also visually. And that is something that I really like and enjoy, and I'm so privileged that I can do this job. Now in our new situation, it will be a big challenge for our industry.
Yes.
How to move on now.
Definitely. Yes.
What's going on with the movie making, and of course there are people that they are shooting already again, but more.
Really?
They are more in but they are in the studios and small productions, so it will be a challenge. How will we recover, and how it will work and how it will go on? So that is an interesting but also a difficult time.
I hope the shootings can start again soon. But I had no idea that some small shootings that started already.
Yes, well, here in Spain, they did some very small things, and they start in the studios again the 18th of May, but like in a very small conditions, and of course only inside and with a lot of precautions. And I know that in Germany also they are going back, so we will see.
Well, that's very nice to hear.
Yes, it's very uplifting.
Yes. Exactly. And I had one last question for you. You have a very international and fulfilled career, and I was wondering if there's still a type of project, maybe a film, TV, anything else you would really like to work on, and why?
There are a lot of directors I love. There are a lot of actors I would like to meet again. I'm open. I really don't have something that I think, I want to do that. I'm very, very happy about my movie making, and I just hope that I can always switch from movie to TV to small to big. I like this, like
the
interchanging of different. Yes, I like underground movies and more like indie movies, but I also enjoy to do a huge Disney movie, obviously. I love all that.
And we can really see it when we watch the movies and the TV you have worked on. It's so diverse and it's so rich. It's very impressive.
Thank you. That's so kind. Thank you.
I'd like to thank Bina Daigeler for making us travel from Munich to Madrid, LA, Puerto Rico, New York, and sharing with us anecdotes and thoughts on her inspiring career. And thank you for listening to Profession Costumière. You can follow the podcast on Instagram @Profession Costumière, and I'll be back very soon with a new episode in English. Bye!